we have, it's an innate right of the judiciary in Lackawanna, in Pennsylvania, that we are obligated to be certain that someone standing before us is mentally competent to proceed, because more often than not, if you're standing in front of a judge, your rights, one way or another, whether they're personal rights, freedom rights, property rights, they're going to be affected. So anytime during a proceeding that is in court, a judge has the right to stop the proceeding and say, look, I need a mental health evaluation here to determine whether or not we should be proceeding and making decisions that may be irrevocable. That is always a possibility. As far as ordering someone into a place like Lackawanna, so that comes under the Mental Health Procedures Act. It's only if we're dealing with at 302 and we have the necessary criteria that has been met. Doctors have examined, the hearing has been held, the person has a serious mental illness, meets all the criteria. It's only under those circumstances that we can order them into a hospital. We actually wish that we had more power to do that, or to be able to expand on the power that we do, because there are frequently people that we have in our treatment courts that aren't functioning as well as they should be, and we recognize the fact that they might need some hospitalization and some long-term treatment for stabilization of their medications and their treatment regimen. And it's very frustrating that we cannot order them to. We almost have to wait until they do something that either poses a threat to themselves or others to put us in the position to be able to order that. So, we frequently find ourselves tiptoeing around the situation, hoping we're not going to be at the situation where we have someone who has been placed under arrest in a bad arrest scene where the police are taking them to the, well, they might be taking them into custody and want to take them to the CMC hospital. And the CMC says, hey, this guy's out of control. We have no way of taking him. They're not going to take him. Or one of the other hospitals won't take him to jail. And suddenly we find the person in 4-point restraints at the county jail. And where do we go from there? And that's our most extreme situation. That's when I get the call from the dentist saying, oh, we have someone, and then we seek an emergency commitment maybe to Norristown State Hospital or one of the other hospitals. Unfortunately, we don't have any place really closer than that, do we, Denny? Occasionally, SCI waymark.
We're actually allowed to use SCI waymark for 302 commitments, and people are familiar with that as an emergency commitment when somebody's tried to harm themselves or harm somebody else. We're one of only 2 counties because they are an SCI. They're a state prison. They're not, and they do have a hospital attached to it, but they have no obligation to take people from county jails. But there was an agreement worked out several years ago, and we keep our fingers crossed because if they take that away, then we're really not going to have any place to send somebody. And we do use Norristown State Hospital, but most recent has been taken 4 to 6 months to get somebody in there. So we really, we don't want to get people in the jail who need hospitalization. We want to try and get that process started before the arrest is made, or at the time the arrest is made, get them evaluated, and if they need hospital, get it done in a community hospital, rather than once they end up in jail. I can still work some deals with the magistrates and reduce bail and do that kind of stuff, but once they're in jail, community hospitals are very reluctant to take people, and Clark Summit pretty much has a standard of the person has to be in the community hospital first before they go to Clark Summit. So the idea is to try and get any hospitalizations done before they end up in the jail.
Judge, a lot of people ask specifically how you as a judge know that, and this could be for a mental health or a client, how do you know that an individual is working recovery? How do you know that they're engaged in the process, that things are aligning and that they're making steady progress? How do you as a judge, is it something that you see right away, or is it something that you've got in discussions?
That's my team, and really, it is such a team effort. Everything from accepting someone into our treatment courts, that's a team decision. They referred to earlier the fact that there is a separate meeting of evaluating the case. Should we take this in? is this person amenable to treatment? Will they respond? Are they going to be appropriate? But the caseworkers, the people who run the residential facilities, the people who are at drug and alcohol treatment services are telling us, are these people showing up for their appointments? Are they participating in the programs? Are they leaving their partial program early? That information is all brought to me in the hour before we actually start the interviews with the individual clients on the weekly basis. So they're telling me technically what they're doing. Then the person comes in and stands before me on a one-on-one basis. And I might start out with something as innocuous as, tell me about your week. How did it go? What's happening? And so often, you just get a read, and seeing the people every week, I can see the people that are feeling better about themselves. I see somebody who's been on a straight line for a couple of weeks who suddenly is distracted, and it's like, hey, are there voices today? Or what, but the sensitivity of the people that are on the team and the awareness that they have of the individuals and really the commitment that they bring to the court, I may be the face of the court, okay, but they are really the body of the treatment court, and it really is just a wonderful collective effort.
Kenny, there were some questions for you, and one that was prevailing was fulfilling all aspects of probation, and what happens if that doesn't happen. If someone doesn't fulfill all the required mandates of their probation, whether they be a mental health court client or just an individual with mental illness in the process without mental health court, what happens if they're not doing everything that they should be as far as probation is concerned? Do they automatically go to jail? Can they have conversations with you? What's that dynamic like for you as probation?
In the treatment court aspect of this, again, we would bring it to the judge's attention. And I mean, besides using some type of controlled substance or something like that, we're going to try to avoid jail at all costs. At the same time, if it's needed or if there's something that's not right, we have the authority to place them in prison, then we would contact the judge, let them know what the circumstances are, and then let them out. In a regular probation sentence, you could be placed in jail for the maximum of your sentence. With the treatment courts, people get a couple more opportunities until they're finally terminated from the program, as opposed to being on general supervision. One violation can land you X amount of time in prison.
I'm kind of wondering what happens conversely. So if someone is on probation or involved with mental health court and they're doing it, things are going good, they're working recovery, they have the job, they're engaged in services, and say some situation arises where they want to go on a vacation out of town, or they have some kind of wedding or some kind of function, and they'd have to leave the county for that. Does that act as an incentive if they get awarded to do something like that? Would they go to a probation officer like you first, and then where would you take it? Or do you have the authority just to kind of give them the ability to go and do what it is they're asking? So is there awards or are there incentives to doing well on probation, on mental health court, or on regular probation if you're an individual with a mental illness?
Well, sure, absolutely. I mean, there's different phases. I know in court and I think mental health court as well, where your first 30 to 60 days you're not going to be able to travel freely. You have different responsibilities, and it's a case-by-case basis. If someone's not being compliant, we're not going to say go ahead and go to Hershey Park. And there is requirements. They have to put in a travel request with I think 2 weeks prior, and then the judge would ask us what our recommendation is. If it's going to be an overnight thing or something like that, usually the protocol is we'd have them report the following day to get a urine screen and an alcohol test to make sure they weren't, just going out to avoid their obligation.
That's a big part of the incentives of the treatment court program as well, of increasing privileges to those who are being successful, who have been going to all of their meetings, and they ask, can I do this with my family? We're going to give them permission when we have that verification that they've been hitting all the points. And then another positive incentive is initially they're coming in and seeing us every week. But someone who is responding to treatment, we back off. We're going to give you a break. We come in every other week. Some come and see us every 3 weeks. And as they get more self-reliant, And as they develop more confidence, we are gradually removing the training wheel from their bicycle. We want them to ride alone. And it just is, as I said, a self-generating thing. And so there are the positive incentives that we use. And the saddest day of the week is when we have to put somebody in jail, because that's our ultimate sanction. It's the last resort. And we tell everybody coming into the mental health treatment court, our main goal is to keep you out of jail. We want the last time you were in jail to be the last time you ever go to jail. Sometimes you have to use that sanction to reinforce it to get into the treatment element.
Thanks, Judge. We are rapidly approaching the end of our time here together today. I do want to open up the last 4 minutes or so that we have to all of you, the audience, for any one of our panelists. Jean?
We are seeing more and more people that come in homeless, both people that don't have a history of mental illness and then those that do. Are there any initiatives to help with the homeless population?
Actually, it is a very hot topic with us right now, and I don't just mean in the treatment court. There's another organization within Lackawanna County called the Criminal Justice Advisory Board. We had a meeting of it yesterday. We call it the CJAD. And it is, we require on a monthly basis a meeting that includes every player in the criminal justice system of Lackawanna County to participate. That is, the courts, the probation office, the sheriff, the public defender, the district attorney, the jail, the housing authority, Lackawanna County Bureau of Children and Youth, adult probation, juvenile probation, Scranton Police, state police. We frequently have held the meetings right here in this room. We meet on a monthly basis. One of the big topics we were discussing just yesterday was the issue of housing, the difficulties that are out there for housing right now, particularly housing with regard to women. Mike Hanley mentioned earlier today about wanting to discuss housing with us. We don't have, I don't think right now, a bigger need for all of our treatment courts and in the criminal system, a bigger need than we have for housing that we can get people into who have come through the criminal justice system. I have many people in jail, unfortunately, who are parole eligible, who deserve to be out. They have had no write-ups in prison. They've served their minimum time, and they do not have a home plan. They may have burned the bridges with their families. They, there are certain regulations that prevent persons with criminal convictions from being in certain public housing, that we're trying to get those restrictions lifted. So they can get out of jail if they can have an approved home plan, meaning you got to live someplace that's satisfactory. And we have such a shortage of housing, but we are working on it really within the last couple of weeks. Myself and Judge Brace have held a number of meetings, and so far, we're at the very beginning of that process. Very difficult.
If I could just add, Judge, there's a number of agencies here in Lackawanna County that have supportive housing programs for chronic homeless individuals, some of them with mental health needs, and as well as transitional housing programs for families with children. There's probably in the county somewhere around 50 or 60 units of housing. Now, with your specific need, if you can get in touch with some of those agencies, United Neighborhood Centers being one of them, Catholic Social Services, there may be a vacancy at the time that you need housing. But there's certainly the number of units that are out there is not nearly what's needed in our community. But if you have a specific need, I would say contact one of the agencies.
In light of that comment, Mike, I would hope that everyone puts their name and email address here so that when the Alliance distributes the notes and reacts to some of what happened today, folks can begin their own smaller collaboration groups.
There is a lot that was not covered today, and we realize that. So that's why we do, again, hope that this is the first of several opportunities for all of us to come together and answer some of the most basic and more profound questions that are ahead of us. So with that, we're going to conclude today's seminar. Just please join me in thanking our panelists that we had here. Be sure to fill out the surveys that we have. Leave them where you are. We'll collect them. Thank you so much for coming today. We appreciate it.